He did this for Haiti numerous times as well, but as his last effort in the White House, he quite literally extended the TPS program for Venezuelans. Okay? He did that. Now, lo and behold, 4 years after the Biden administration, every single Venezuelan is actually a criminal Trinidad gangster, is the way that he's operating. Yeah, also, family of Venezuelan migrants sent to Guantanamo. My brother is not a criminal. Luis Alberto Castillo arrived in the United States so that he could give everything to his son, said his sister. Then while scrolling on TikTok, she found out he was headed to Guantanamo. Luis Alberto Castillo, a father of one from Venezuela, entered the United States on January 19th, one day before Donald Trump became president for a second term, swept into office on a promise to treat undocumented migrants with a heavy hand. By February 4th, Mr. Castillo was on a plane to a U.S. Navy base at Guantanamo Bay in Cuba, best known for a detention center that has long held terrorism suspects accused of launching the deadliest attack on U.S. soil. That day, the Department of Homeland Security declared that those who had been transferred to the island represented the worst of the worst and were all members of a Venezuelan criminal group, Tren de Aragua. But in an interview from her home in Colombia, Mr. Castillo's sister, Yayara Castillo, said her brother was not a gang member to be feared, but rather an everyday Venezuelan who had fled his country because of its economic crisis. She broke down repeatedly during the conversation, crying as she described her pain and confusion around her brother's situation. My brother's not a criminal, she said. This is all discrimination and xenophobia just because he's Venezuelan. Given that Mr. Castillo had spent such little time in the United States, she questioned how the U.S. government could have determined that he was a member of Tren de Aragua or worthy of such harsh treatment. The thing, dude, we will never atone for the crimes that we have committed in Venezuela, okay? The Trump administration deliberately supercharged sanctions on Venezuela with the hopes of, and this is their quote, not mine, make the economy scream. And they did. They successfully did that. Okay? And then, for political purposes, in order to destabilize Venezuela further, they offered temporary protected status to all Venezuelans that were fleeing. Okay? They did mass starvation. And then, of course, when people were like, okay, f this, I need to survive. Like, this is crazy. Not only did they end up destabilizing a bunch of neighboring countries as well, because there was an influx of refugees escaping Venezuela. Okay? They also open up the floodgates of migration to the United States of America. And Donald Trump knew that this would be maybe later down the line in a Cuban-style situation, politically advantageous for the government, or at least the State Department did. I don't think Trump cares about it all that much. But in that process, they allowed temporary protected status to all Venezuelan migrants that were coming in Venezuela that we were now offering a temporary protected status for. So that's precisely what happened. An influx of refugees coming in from Venezuela under the Trump administration. Trump was so on board with the temporary protected status offered to Venezuelan migrants and Venezuelan refugees in general that he actually continued it. He even signed off on a continuation and an extension of the temporary protected status quite literally on his way out. He did this for Haiti numerous times as well, but as his last effort in the White House, he quite literally extended the TPS program for Venezuelans. Okay? He did that. Now, lo and behold, 4 years after the Biden administration, every single Venezuelan is actually a criminal Tren de Aragua gangster, is the way that he's operating. So all these people that escaped Venezuela, okay, all these people that escaped Venezuela because of widespread corruption and famine and, of course, American sanctions playing a major role, make no mistake, okay, are now inside of U.S. borders, and their temporary protected status can be revoked at any given moment, and they can be treated like rugged criminals for political purpose. What is the Venezuelan issue exactly? Hasan's claim of the U.S. being responsible for the Venezuelan economy. We didn't create that problem. Oh, my Lord. Sure, you're right. America actually supercharged its sanctions. By the way, Jeff Stein of Washington Post wrote extensively on the subject across the board. He did it for Joe Biden. He covered the Trump administration sanctions as well. So why did we sanction them? Okay. Why did we sanction them if it did nothing? Simple-minded narrative. Okay. Did we just do it for no reason? What do you think? If sanctions are inconsequential. Why don't we reverse them? The economy was far gone long before the sanctions. Okay. Why do you choose to kick a country that is already down even further into the ground then? With the deliberate reason of making their economy scream. Didn't all you liberals call Latinos racist and Trump supporters? Why the 180 need voters? What? If you think this community has ever called Latinos racist and Trump supporters, you're the stupidest person on the planet. What are you talking about? I've routinely shit on people who actually are calling ICE on their undocumented neighbors now. Okay? Shut the up, dumbass. This is not a liberal community anyway. Because they had massive human rights violations. The dictatorship empowers a full-on narco-terrorist state that political prison. Oh, I forgot. That's right. When a country is engaging in human rights violations, never America, by the way, we never would do that. The best thing to do is actually kill their citizens further. You're right. This isn't even a defense of Maduro, okay? I'm not exactly a fan of Maduro. I've been very critical of Maduro. I've even talked about the exit ramp that Maduro tried to pull on, the cord that he tried to tug on recently, where he was like, oh yeah, we should just invade another country. Ridiculous, okay? But that does not change the reality of American sanctions. The American sanctions regime was deliberately designed to destroy the Venezuelan economy further. Yes, Venezuela was over-reliant on oil, and the extraction and the refinement processes of Venezuelan oil was impossible to compete with Saudi oil. I understand that. Chavez actually implemented diversification initiatives during his reign. Unfortunately, they were not implemented fast enough, and he had to fight against coups, assassination attempts, all backed by the United States of America, and also simultaneously, a incredibly hostile agricultural production, an incredibly hostile chamber of commerce that was comprised of all the wealthiest individuals that maintain control over key sectors in the Venezuelan economy for far too long. This paired up with currency mismanagement from the Maduro regime, and Maduro himself not being a very competent leader, absolutely played a role in ruining the Venezuelan economy. Certainly. The problem, however, is that if sanctions had nothing to do with the death and destruction in Venezuela, then we wouldn't do them, okay? Or that we can very easily reverse them. As a Guyanese who can tell you, firsthand, Maduro's a jackass. He's a jackass that inherited U.S. sanctions from his predecessor. Yeah, I mean, I've talked about this as well, like him saying that Guyana is ours. They're ridiculous shit, okay? The only people that say spread this garbage are Chavista or socialist apologists. The narrative you're pushing is absolutely false. As someone who was born and lived in Venezuela, there's exactly nobody that blames the U.S. for the economic crisis. That is a talking point from the Maduro regime to deflect accountability from the communist regime started in 1999. I'm once again asking, you sidestepped the sanctions and their economic harm, their deliberate economic harm, by claiming, well, they violate human rights. Okay, it's true. They do. The Maduro regime is certainly heavy-handed in terms of part of that is because they're constantly under threat by foreign interests that is collaborating with a lot of the wealthiest Venezuelans that still control key sectors. Having said that, however, why did the American government implement a sanctions regime if it was so irrelevant? If it's so irrelevant, why would the American government not just simply reverse those sanctions? That's it. That's the question. If these sanctions are so inconsequential, so insignificant, then why do they exist? Yeah, nobody blames the U.S. for the sanctions. It's a lie made up. But also, we had to do those sanctions because they're violating human rights. Yeah. If human rights violations are the cause of sanctions, why doesn't the U.S. government sanction Saudi Arabia, Israel, Turkey, Azerbaijan, numerous other countries that are firmly committed to American empire and American empire activities, and yet also engage in a litany of human rights violations? If sanctions were actually implemented due to a regime doing human rights violations, we would have to sanction ourselves, I think. We would just have to commit Sudoku. Anyway. Anyway, are you really a socialist apologist, Hasan? Yes, I am. Seppuku, not Sudoku. I know I'm saying that as a meme, chatter. I mean, the U.S. is currently Sudokuing right now. Okay, that's also true. That is true, actually. We didn't get enough. We didn't get enough advantages from the unequal trade and the extraction of natural resources in the global south, that we're doing it to ourselves now. We're doing IMF, World Bank style austerity regimes implemented on domestic soil, threatening the domestic manufacturing capabilities, the domestic labor force. We're ruining America. We are technically killing ourselves, so we are definitely accelerating that inevitable demise. And yeah, here we are. I cover it every day. Welcome to the HasanAbi broadcast. Also, ironically enough, yes, the Jeff Stein article quite literally showed that we sanctioned every country so hard that we technically created a black market opportunity for trade. If you sanction virtually every country, or if you, let's say, tariff every country, all of our allies, for example, well, there's one of two options. You basically create a secondary market without those guys actually having to collaborate with one another. Yeah. And that's precisely what happened. They created a parallel economy. Anyway, there's people in Brazil who believe we live in a communist dictatorship. That's amazing. Dude, if you were in a communist dictatorship, you wouldn't be on Twitch neither. A majority of people would consider only Maduro fault. Damn, Chavez and Maduro so long in power and they didn't crush the opposition like the USSR or China. Yeah, I'm not going to get into that. But yeah, I do think... I don't want to say, actually. I'm not going to say anything. Yes, sometimes I think not crushing your opposition can inevitably lead to some problems. Okay? I'm not saying anything. I don't agree. I think democracy is great and it should thrive. And I wish it did in the United States of America. But it doesn't. What's that Venezuelan chatter saying now? I don't know. Probably fucking still angrily typing about how Juan Guaido still deserves to be the true leader of Venezuela or something. I don't fucking know. Quinnipiac, in today's poll, 31% of voters have a favorable opinion of the Democratic Party, while 57% have an unfavorable opinion. Nice. Chavez was literally called a dictator because he packed the course that literally signed on his coup. Yeah, listen. I'm no big city lawyer, but the moment that the Chamber of Commerce head becomes the new leader and America announces the new leadership as the guy who leads the Chamber of Commerce, I come back from that with mass popular uprising, okay, and mass protests on the streets. I come back from that popular mobilization and I insta-lock everyone in jail. I take away all of their property. I take away and I extract and I nationalize every single aspect of the economy. That's all I'm saying. To me, I think it's pussy shit not to do that. I think it's a massive self-own. You come back from that moment and the people are demanding bloody murder because they fucking falsely imprisoned you and try to do a fucking coup d'etat, and you come back from that and you don't lock up every single person responsible, even their fucking friends, okay? Anyone that was in that room is going to jail, okay? Sorry, you can't have the grocery marketplace any longer, okay? It is now owned by the state. That's me. I'm a weak man, and that's what I would do in that situation. That's all I'm saying. That's just me. I can't take that disrespect. That disrespect is far too obvious. It's far too awful. Would you take that disrespect personally? For me, I wouldn't. You know what I mean? So Lula is the biggest pussy? What do you mean? He's actively working on throwing all the people that try to do a coup in the Lulag right now. Is he not? Am I wrong? The Lulags are very much alive and well in the communist dictatorship of Brazil. Yeah, the Lulags, baby. The Lula gulags. Get to the Lulag. Yeah, Caesar pardoned all of his opponents. Look what that got him, you know? Lula is our Biden now, unfortunately. Anyway, all right. Yeah. Put him in a rehabilitation facility and blast him with 24/7 DEI CRT, okay? DEI CRT footage all day every day. Only the gay episodes of every television show. But on that note, I'm done for the day. Another... What is happening? Another 7-hour... Wait, why isn't this loading? What the fuck?